So how did you get interested in this subject?
Okay, so I would pinpoint it as our years in Bakersfield, California. We were 3 years there after we lived in UK for 6 years. And the Campus Crusade office there was very involved with multicultural training. And as a result of that, they'd gotten involved. There were 97 languages spoken in the town. And so they got very involved with the black community there. And so I was getting a taste of how good that could be, taking prayer walks multiculturally, just kind of going to multicultural events. So I think that's where the taste for that started. The second thing was um, my first husband got lymphoma, and he needed our daughter to come help him. And my husband said, "You need to go help with that." And so he was in the hospital all that time, and we were given a free apartment by a ministry. But my observation was the blacks are all around us in South Houston were just so loving. And I thought, wow, God's done a work here. Because my previous exposure in Bakersfield was they were a little afraid of us and distant. And this was aggressively loving, just more than I could imagine. So, but then God brought to my attention recently, my spiritual mother in things of the Spirit was a black woman in Tulsa. And she mentored me after I was filled with the Spirit. So I think the seeds were sown then, because I still experience in my little town that that's where I'm mentored in things of the Spirit, is the black women that surround me. A lot of mature black Christians.
Now, did you find much of a difference between the West Coast and the East or the South as far as African American attitudes? Or how would you describe would you say that there was a difference, and how would you describe people's
I'm probably
attitudes?
not qualified to say, because Bakersfield is I'll use the word conservative pocket of California, so it's not the more liberal side. I don't know what it's like out there.
Okay.
I didn't experience that. But I will say about the South, I have some exposure to that. I was raised in Oklahoma, which is sort of South, and we were always taught to not use the bad word that describes the Negroes, and you notice I can't say it yet. I won't at this point. But we had the help in our home, but they were family members to us. We loved them, and they loved us, and I couldn't relate to the movie too well called The Help, because my perspective was different in our attitude towards them.
Right. So yours was a positive attitude,
Yeah,
and it
very
was friendship.
sweet. Yeah, and that's still my experience. It's very sweet.
Yeah.
I run into that attitude, as we call it sometimes, the hostile attitude, and I just understand now that it's hurt and pain that causes the defenses to be up.
Right. And so why was there anything specific that happened that made you get involved in the slave trade issues?
Yes, because as we moved to Hempstead, where I live now outside of Houston, I did not realize there were even plantations in Texas until I moved there. And it so happened it was the first plantation and the largest, the first one to ship cotton. So that's, for an intercessor, all those first and biggest are things you look at to pray. And I'm called to city praying to where I live. God said to me, when I take you to a foreign country, pray for that place, for if it prospers, you prosper. And that's what I've done everywhere I've lived, and God's shown me dynamics pretty quickly of the place.
Right.
And I've been trained by wise people.
So you picked it up when you went there, that was a big route.
Yes, and then I also was invited to be part of the ladies' jail ministry, and God gave me a quick heart for, quickly, a heart for the ladies, which were mixed racially, but, I just heard the hearts cry of the black women, especially, and the hopelessness sometimes that could just lay that on me. So then, in my research into the town, I realized that and this is on our video, I realized that the issue in Hempstead was the former slave plantation. There were several around, but it was the largest. And I said, the first one. There weren't any buildings left, but they started discovering where the foundations were and did a dig. So it was opened up to the public, and that opened the door for us. And my friend knew the landowner, so she introduced us, and we had lunch, and I discussed this with him, and he was happy to invite us to come to the land to do that and to even take part in it. So it was God's time, and He just opened the door and kind of pushed us.
And what year was that?
That was 8 years ago this summer, on Juneteenth.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And Juneteenth is really about Texas, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because that's the news of emancipation did not reach Texas for almost 2 years.
Right.
Until a general came and read the papers in Galveston, I think it was.
So, since that time, you've seen that as a calling, I guess. What do you think you need to do now? How do you think that would be a completion of a calling for you?
Well, it seems to expand, so I'm not sure where it will go. Because as we go through doors, and this whole thing has been people opening doors for us. And primarily that started after the repentance time at Bernardo Plantation. Ronald Myers invited us to the International Day of Reconciliation, and there we met Jack Gaines. And he started calling just because he saw our strong interest in it and the passion in it. And he has opened all the doors almost. Well, that's not entirely true, but he began the process for me. But so it looked like racial reconciliation, and it is, but there's a bigger picture to that. And it's my passion to see people set free of the stuff that's holding them back. It would be like Hebrews 12:1 and 2, throwing off the weights that entangle, so that we can run the race before us with our eyes on Jesus, fixing our eyes on Jesus, because it's about the King and His kingdom, and so we can be adequate servants for His kingdom.
And do you see this bringing, I've only got 30 seconds, but how will this impact America now? Do you think there's a lot of healing still in America?
America needs it so desperately because we haven't faced our responsibility. To me, it's an issue of responsibility, and we haven't faced it. And the wall has to come down for us to survive as a nation, I believe. Wow. And in order to finish, I've got to get the book done. And this healing wall, I know God's put that on our heart, but there's a way to increase the availability of healing.